Hello, welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature podcast. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature podcast. I was walking on the beach not too long ago, and I came across a message in a bottle. And when I
Wow.
when I took the cork off the bottle, it said, "Hey, I don't know who's reading this, but you should check out the Patreon over for Drive-In Double Feature. I'm on this lonely island, and I don't want to get rescued because there's enough free content over it. Not enough content. There's so much content over there for $5 a
Lonely
month.
Island, is that a reference?
No, no,
No. Oh, okay, okay.
they're on a deserted island. They got enough Patreon content over there to keep them busy. They said, "Don't send help."
I've got enough. I'm
So
eating.
he's eating good with our content. So,
Yes.
but you can too for only $5 a month, which has a lot of fun conversations over there. It doesn't affect any regular content over there, so please check it out. But today we're going to be talking about 1993's Surf Ninjas, which is directed by Neil Israel. So I've known about this movie for quite a long time. In fact, I saw this movie in theaters.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I've known about this movie for a long time. It's about three young high school quotes, students that are two brothers and their best friend Rob Schneider. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, that are actually descended from royalty, and they are completely unaware of it and have been living in California as you do. And they've taken up the love of surfing, skateboarding, and all kinds of other matters over there. And all of a sudden, this evil general, played by Leslie Nielsen, of all people,
Oh,
is
so
trying to have
scary.
them kill. Like I said, this movie was a childhood favorite of mine. I mean, well, I'll get into like what my actual thoughts of it were before after this, but uh, I really did. I like watching this movie a lot. I had it on VHS,
Hmm.
and I watched it quite a bit. I I always had a good time watching it. It's just I remember as a kid just like loving like the fight scenes in it, and just like a lot of like the cool action moments in this movie. I thought at the time, and one other thing too, which is a big plot point, which we'll get into, is the character, the younger brother, has a Game Gear,
Hmm.
and he uses the Game Gear to see into the future. Now, like the graphics in the game that he's playing on there look really fun, and I was like, man, that looks so cool. And like I remember, I begged my parents for a Sega Game Gear after this movie, and I
Hmm.
did get one finally. Uh, Now, there was a Surf Ninjas video game too,
Yeah.
which I also got, and it wasn't anything like the movie, but I mean, it was still pretty fun to play.
Okay, good, good. You weren't that disappointed.
No, no, but it didn't look anything like the Surf Ninjas game that they're
No.
playing in the movie.
In the movie, I was looking at the graphics like, wow, that's crazy. That actually looks really cool. I've never played the game before, but I guess I'll temper my expectations a little.
So, I mean, you could see why though. I was just like,
Oh
oh my
yeah.
god, like you know,
And
what was
90 and what was that? 93, having that on a handheld when like everybody played Game Boys, that's like mind blowing.
yeah, I was like 5 years old or whatever at the time. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like that looks so cool, and
Hmm. Yeah.
and but yeah, it was a favorite of mine growing up, and like I would watch it quite a bit growing up. So I thought it'd be a good time to revisit it. And you know what, they say don't revisit some of your classics, and you know what, that theory still holds pretty true. Um,
I'm sorry.
but
So you haven't watched this movie in a long time.
it's been a it's probably been, God, probably 20 years or more.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I mean, not definitely not since like middle school. Probably that's probably like the last time I watched, I would imagine.
Hmm.
So it's been a while since I watched it, and sitting down I wanted to revisit it. I guess I should ask, did you know what, have you seen this movie at all before?
No, I've never seen it. I knew of it because Nostalgia Critic watched this. This is like one of his early reviews, if I remember right. So
Mm,
I knew scenes from this movie, but no, I never watched it on its own. So this was a fresh experience.
okay. Well, yeah, so I mean, watching it now, it's like you realize just like how bad some of the comedy is in this one.
Oh yeah,
But you know what? I mean, I still have a soft spot for it, though. I
that's
mean,
good.
it's not like anything like I was like, oh, like this is awful. But it was definitely like there's definitely some eye rolling moments, and
If I had a time machine, I'd go back and slap myself around. How dare you like this movie?
I, and you know, I remember I do remember Rob Schneider being annoying even back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But that's kind of like his role, I guess. Like as a kid, I guess you would take it as like, oh, he's supposed to be annoying, right?
I, I don't know. I feel like they're trying to think like he's hilarious.
I don't know. Was Rob Schneider ever funny?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, I mean like the SNL stuff I've seen, I don't know, but SNL doesn't age well in general, so I
I
don't
mean,
know.
the making copies guy, everyone loved that character.
Yeah, when I sent you a clip of it this week, I had to like there were so many times that character appeared on SNL. Like there were so many skits with the Rick Meister, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
people liked that character. I mean, it was like a big deal. And you know, he did and Rob Schneider did have like his own like solo career for like a hot minute
yeah, yeah. I
until
mean, he quit that. He's quit SNL to have a solo career to be a movie star.
well, yeah, I mean, he did that, you know, and then like the animal, hot chick, and
Yeah,
all those. So
yeah.
but and this one, you know, he's very much just like the annoying sidekick, which is kind of what he was doing in the 90s around that time. Like if like before this movie, he did Home Alone 2,
That's
where he
right.
was like where he was the bellhop that was like I kind of you know like being real annoying in that one, or like being like a
Hmm.
creep kind of.
Yeah,
So very much plays into it. But anyway, getting into like the actual plot of the movie, like I said, it stars Ernie Reyes Jr., who is actually an accomplished martial artist,
yeah.
and the character of Zach, too, who plays like the bodyguard to these kids, is also played by Ernie Reyes Sr., like his dad, and they're
Hmm.
both accomplished martial artists. Ernie Reyes Sr. had actually choreographed a lot of other movies, martial arts scenes before this. Like one of them being the Last Dragon, if you're aware of that one.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so he definitely had his own career now, and then Ernie Reyes Jr. This movie, so I don't know if you remember, he had a pretty big part in Ninja Turtles 2, Secret
Really?
of the Ooze.
I don't remember that.
Have you seen the movie?
No, but
Okay, that's
I've
fine.
yeah, I've seen Nostalgia Critic and Angry Video Game Nerd talk about it.
Well, yeah, in that one he plays like a pizza delivery boy, and he does have like martial arts skills in that one.
Gotcha. Okay.
So apparently, though, like New Line Cinemas, because that's who produced the Ninja Turtles movies, like they were so wowed by his performance in that movie
Wow.
that they actually gave him a three-picture deal out of that.
Wait, holy crap. This is part of his three picture deal? Wait, did it go anywhere after this?
This is his only movie of his three-picture deal. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
because this
Well,
movie
that
performed.
sucks. Is that really his fault?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there's anything in here that was his fault. I mean, it's like, I mean, he's not like a great actor or anything, but I mean, I don't think he's like bad in this or anything like that.
No, I mean, like, it's not like laughably bad or anything. He seems like a guy who would just be in movies. He feels like a 90s star. Like, it's just, there were so many actors that just needed to be in an action movie, and that was absolutely fine.
Yeah, I remember he had been in like other movies after this. Like, I want to say like a movie I remember him from after this was actually the Reds, not Red Sonia. We were talking about that in a previous episode.
Yeah.
The Rundown, which is the I don't know if you were. It's the movie with The Rock and Sean William Scott,
Oh, yes. Yeah, that movie.
and they're kind of like it's like an action movie in a jungle type of setting.
Hmm.
and Ernie Reyes Jr. is actually fighting in that movie. And I actually remember like watching that. And I was like, wait a minute, that's the guy from Surf Ninjas.
That's Surf Ninja.
So yeah, that's like my experience with the movie. And like I said, the movie the two boys that are Johnny and Adam. So
Hmm.
Johnny is Ernie Reyes Jr. and Adam is the younger brother. Like I said, they were originally in a faraway country called Patusan, and they were descended from royalty. Their whole family ends up getting massacred because this General Chi was played by Leslie Nielsen, was trying to conquer the land and basically usurp like the control of the country.
Hmm.
And so the only way to get them out of there, to get rid of all the royalty, the two little boys were taken and adopted by their American father named Mac, and
Yep.
they ended up living out in California during the time being. And why they waited so long to go after these kids, I don't know. But
It just right now was the right time.
yeah, but
Maybe Leslie Nielsen couldn't find them.
I guess, but once they're aware where these guys are, like they don't try. Like I don't feel like they try hard enough to kill these kids.
No, no, I agree that it's a bit of a mess. But like it's weird because they play him like, oh, Leslie Nielsen's gang is a bunch of they're kind of like bumbling buffoons in a way. Maybe just him, but it just feels
No, they
like,
all are.
yeah, it just I don't know. It's
There's no real
weird.
threat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no
But
threat there.
like at any point in this movie, do you ever feel like, oh my god, these guys are so scary, they're tough? It's like
Yeah.
at like because like the henchmen are very bumbling, like, and they get beaten up in like the most embarrassing ways possible.
Yeah.
And and General Chi, Leslie Nielsen, like he's kind of like an idiot, kind of like buffoon of his own. So
Hmm.
it's never like this whole like, oh man, he's so menacing. It's very much like, oh,
Very comic collapse.
this guy's very much an idiot.
Yeah, and
And
it got me thinking about Leslie Nielsen, and this is kind of a side tangent of how his career went because he was really funny in like Airplane, Naked Gun, all those movies, and then like his comedy came from being like the only serious one in the room, right? Like he was very deadpan, and that was like the comedy. Like he was able to be deadpan when all the silly stuff was happening. And like in the 90s, I feel like this is a sign of that where he really played into the more slapsticky side of himself. And that's why he ended up in so many bad movies at this point.
he did a lot of family movies like at that point. I remember like he
Mhm.
did one was like Rent a Kid, like a lot of those like straight to video
Yeah.
like family movies where he's just and he oh like Mr. Magoo and all
Oh, that's
those
right.
other
He
ones.
was Mr. Magoo.
So he was kind of like going like in this pathway of just like, okay, I'm just going all in on comedy. But
Yeah.
he still was still pretty funny though, I think, in some of those movies.
Because he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he definitely had a talent for comedy.
Yeah.
But this one I definitely would not point to it as like Leslie Nielsen is like
No.
being really funny because the jokes they have him doing in here are really bad and embarrassing for some
Yeah.
of them. Which I'll go ahead and say it. Like, there's one like towards like the final scene of the movie where he's like fighting Johnny, and Johnny, he's in high school, so he's like probably underage.
Hmm.
And the only reason why I specify that is because like Colonel Chi is like half of his body is robotic
Hmm.
because during the flashback of the kids escaping, his he was crushed by an elephant,
Hmm.
and like so now he's got like half of his face is a metal plate and half of his and like one of his arms is completely robotic. Well,
Hmm.
the whole point is since he's a robot, he can't get wet, and at one point he does get wet, and his hand starts like going crazy, and then his hand like just like immediately grabs his crotch, and like
It's disgusting,
you
actually.
could, I mean, like
You
You
see
can
it.
see it. You
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it. Like
it's
you see the shape of
insane.
it, and then
I knew about this scene. I didn't know it was this graphic. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, he grabs his crotch, and it was like, ow, almost like he hits himself in his balls or whatever. But no, he grabs his penis. That's like you see it in it like through the pants, and it's like, oh my god, it was really disgusting. I did not want to see it.
yeah, and like I said, like that's like, can you imagine? Older
Yeah,
man grabs crotch in front of underage like
yeah.
boy,
So
but
luckily, I know at least two of these kids, and Rob Schneider is playing a high schooler. By the way, they are
and
way too old for this role.
well, yeah, and I mean Johnny, like the actor Ernie Reyes Jr., he was like in his 20s during this,
Yeah, yeah,
but I just thought it was funny. It was just like the character is supposed to be underage, and he's like full on just like grabbing his crotch in front of him. But
yeah.
anyway, I'm getting way ahead, but
That's the end of the movie.
that's the end of the movie. But anyway, like I said, these two boys have now completely adapted the California lifestyle, and
Hmm.
they're all about surfing, skateboarding. Like they love surfing so much, like they go surfing before school, and
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which I always thought about that. I was just like, oh man, they go surfing and then go to school,
They
and
probably
then
smell like the nasty ocean.
yeah, and they come home and have breakfast, and then like Rob Schneider is like in their kitchen, like making breakfast, and
Hmm.
he's like, "What are you doing?" And like their dad, quote, like they're the guy that adopted them is like, "What are you doing here, eating all of our food?" And he's like, "Are those my boxers?" And I thought about that like now, like how disturbing would that be if like your best friend was like wearing your dad's boxers,
Yeah, that would
like
be so weird. I
the,
wouldn't want to associate with him.
he's like, "Oh, are these yours?" Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well,
I saw him. I'm wearing them. Like, why are you not? Why? Why are you even looking for boxers? What'd you do to
yeah.
those boxers? Your
Well,
originals.
that's like the whole like then that's like a big joke is like he's there so much that he's practically like
Living with
related to
them.
them. Yeah, and
Using all their food and everything.
yeah, and one of his character traits. So like when they're out surfing, like and this is a scene I remember too. Like how he says this is like when they go out surfing and they go surf. Which when you go watch the surfing footage, like one of them is supposed to be like a little boy because like their other one's like supposed to be like 11 years old or
Hmm.
something. And it's very clearly like an adult man, like in a wetsuit.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
let's do it. And but when they go out, they're like, "All right, we're gonna go surf." And Rob Schneider is like, "Oh, I'm gonna stay here and wax my board." But the way he says like wax, like I always like that's always stuck in my mind. Like, "No, wax, wax."
That's funny. I didn't recognize that.
The very like specific moments, like I was like all came like rushing. Like, oh, I remember hearing
I
that
remember
movie.
him
And like
waxing his board.
just the way he said it, like I just thought it was
Wax.
weird. Yeah, wax
That's funny.
and and but yeah, they go surfing, and like the whole thing is like Rob Schneider's like he always pretends like he's gonna go surfing, but he never does, and they like because they're like, okay, buddy, like you know how to surf, but even though he really doesn't, but they go to school, everything, and they're both kind of like, which I thought like at least like the younger boy, like his character trait would be maybe like he's the smart one or something. But no, he's an idiot too. Like he can't point
Yeah.
out Spain on a map.
Oh my
And he's just
God. I was like, are you serious? Yeah. He's like, so it's kind of funny because he's like pointing at other countries. He's like, this could be Spain.
he's
And
like,
it's like
some say Spain could be here, and he points at like Africa.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny, but it goes on for a little too long because he
Well,
does.
okay, so that's the other scene I remember like very vividly too,
Yeah.
because there's a boy in there that laughs like in a really odd
Yes.
way. He's
Yeah.
like,
The director definitely was like, you gotta laugh. You, do this, kid.
yeah, like, and he like that's the only scene the kid's in, but he
Yeah,
just
you'd think he'd be like a bully or something that would pop up multiple times.
but no, yeah, they basically it's just establishing that they're both kind of like slackers, and they
Hmm.
don't have a lot going on in their life, and they just care about surfing and skateboarding. And then one night, and during their whole day is like these ninjas are trying to attack them at various points of the day, but they always
Hmm.
keep kind of getting like they stumble or whatever, or Zach, like the bodyguard that's been watching over them this whole time, is like taking them out one by one type of thing. So
Mhm.
um, until at some point they do eventually invade their house, and Zach kind of like gets them out of there and kind of lets them know like what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, and that's he becomes like I guess he gets to be a comic character too, because all he does is make fun. He makes fun of Rob Schneider. There's one bit where he's like, "Oh, you keep him around like a pet, like a monkey or something, right?" Because
Yeah,
the whole time he's like, "Why are we bringing him? Why are we bringing Iggy with us everywhere?"
yeah. And they're just like, he's got nowhere else to go, man.
Yeah, exactly. There's the running gag that he thinks he's the chosen one, the one who's meant to be king, even though he's not Asian at all.
Right. Well, the whole thing is that they all have like their special powers, because like,
Yeah.
which is a weird element, kind of like there's like this, I guess, like supernatural fantasy element to this movie, which
Mm-hmm.
seems a little odd, but anyway, like the whole point is that Johnny is supposed to be this great warrior, and he's the one that's going to be king.
Mm-hmm.
And but he possess at the start of the movie, he possesses no fighting ability whatsoever.
Yeah.
And Adam, the younger brother, he's a visionary. He can see into the future, and
Through his
that's
Game Gear.
through his Game Gear. Because like at one point, like he could see like, oh, there's people. He's like playing the game like of them, like of like the ninjas outside of their house or whatever, and they're like, oh, they're sneaking in our house, or like there's like a ninja on top of their roof, and they're like, oh, look up, guys, and
Mm-hmm.
just. And I mean, I just think it's funny because like Game Gears are freaking huge. Like
Yes,
they're
yeah.
and I'm like, he's got to carry that thing around, and the batteries in those things did not last that long, and you got to
Yeah.
put like six of
Yeah,
them in
a
there.
six battery machine because it was color, had a backlight, everything. Like it was that was a hog.
Yeah, so they go out, they do that, and then like Iggy's power, which they it's kind of like a joke where he's like, oh well, I have the ability to whatever I say happens.
So if he says, "What if we fell?" and then there's a
I was
scene where
like,
they fall.
or like, what if the house exploded? And it's like, oh my god, I blew up my friend's house.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's got to deal with the trauma of that. And then that's when he starts getting like negative thoughts. He's like, What if my mom died? Oh my god, my mom." No, no.
He's pretty much just there. Rob Schneider is just there to be annoying because he doesn't really play a part in the story. Like I'm trying to even think of like a time where he actually even helped them in any sort of way.
No, not really. He kind of there's like a big fight scene at one point where they're fighting like and he just hides under a table and he says, what if one of us could fight?" And then supposedly that helps him fight, but I think it's a joke. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. Is like they go to like a restaurant at first
Hmm.
to go there to hide out, and that's where Johnny's introduced to his future wife,
Hmm.
which there's kind of like a weird element to that as well, because like at first
Hmm.
like she's like oh yeah, you're my husband, and then like later in the movie she's like no, like you can't tell me what to do
Yeah,
type of thing.
it feels so sudden because I mean, like it would be different if she seemed like a little reluctant, but she's like really all into, yeah, I'm your wife, we're gonna get married. But then all like you said, all of a sudden she's like, no, no, let's date. I don't want to go straight to get married. Luckily, the kid, he's like, okay, cool, that's fine.
Well, not before that, even like she even said like I forget what it was they did, but he was like, oh, what was that? She's like, oh, you'll find out on our wedding night.
That's right. Yeah.
And then she's like, don't, we're not committed here, like type of thing. Just like, wait a minute. Like,
Yeah, yeah, you were like all in. You were gonna like do you were gonna do some nasty stuff to the guy, and now
yeah,
it's like nothing. Okay.
yeah. But that was the whole point, is like they had to introduce like a female love interest for what, just because.
Hmm.
And uh and then the ninjas end up tracking them down to the restaurant, and they end up having a big fight scene, and that's where Johnny suddenly knows how to fight. Like it's like plays like the whole like hallelujah stuff, like, well, and he like
Ugh.
learns how to fight.
Yeah, I think he like picks up a weapon, right? And they even turn on like lights on him to look like, like, oh my God, it's his moment.
Yeah. I thought it was it was silly, but I
It's
remember as a
silly.
kid, I remember being as a kid, it's like, oh, that's so cool.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, it's a silly movie. Like, I mean, like it's hard to like full on hate. I mean, personally, this is going to sound weird because we were talking about all the fun bits of the movie. It was kind of boring to me. I think I hit a point, especially when we get later into the movie, when they go over, like they leave America. I think the movie stalls out and gets really boring.
I completely agree. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun, I think, in a
Mhm.
bad way, kind of like where
Yeah.
when they're like fighting them in like various like the restaurant and things like that, or like
Hmm.
or they're like trying to like they like these bumbling bad guys. But yeah, I think it kind of takes like a really abrupt halt because like they take them to like Patusan and then they show them like these rundown villages. And they're like, see, like, oh my God, look at all this destruction that has happened.
Hmm.
And it's like trying to play it like super serious, but then there's like other bits too where like Johnny has to like learn how to fight or
Hmm.
whatever, and they do like a whole training montage. Oh, there's like one bit where he falls down like a hole, and they're like, he's like, "Hey, I found Waldo."
That's right. And then I clapped and laughed.
Yeah,
Yeah. But no, we didn't even bring up that Tone Loc is in this movie. Yeah, and he's like a cop that's chasing down the kids because he knows something weird is up. And I just thought it was funny. That's why I sent you the ages of Rob Schneider and Tone Loc. That Rob Schneider is 2 years older than him, and he's playing a high school student, while Tone is over here. He's playing a cop, an adult chasing them down.
I actually liked him in this movie. Like he's
He's
pretty like
fine.
he's good. I
Yeah.
mean, I he does have like this like string of like movies where he's like in the '90s where like Tone Loc was in like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, especially like he was in family movies because one that constantly gets brought up on the show, Blank Check. He's in Blank
Yeah,
Check.
and Ace
Um,
Ventura.
yep, that's right. Yeah, I mean, Wild Thing was just that good of a song.
I guess so, but I was like, you know what? He should come back. He needs to do more.
What is he up to?
I
Yeah,
don't,
what's he doing?
I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, I do think it does kind of like take like a pretty slow stall, and they're kind of banding together. Um, one funny bit though is like, so Tone Loc is like supposed to just be like a detective, and he's just kind of like watching over these kids, making sure they're safe, and
Hmm.
he ends up smuggling himself, like stowing away onto
That's right. Yeah.
their ship, and he's able to, like, because they had him handcuffed at one point, and he's able
Hmm.
to. And he has like this weird character trait where he's able to get out of his handcuffs, and they're like, oh, like how were you able to do that? And he's like, oh, I swallowed the key. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, how did you know you're gonna need it? He's like, I swallow it every Tuesday.
Yeah, and that
Well,
yeah, it felt like a scene from a sitcom that, and they didn't have a sound effect, but it would have like a silly sound effect after it, like a gong or something. Like
like yeah, like he like this guy's like constantly like swallowing and shitting out this key.
just
And
because
just like,
he can shit it out when he needs it.
I mean, just like got like how could you like knowing that this key's been through my body countless times, and it's just
Oh
like
God, it's got
I
to be like dissolved in some way, right? Like over
yeah,
time.
I guess it's a miracle. Thank God that it's passed each time
Yeah, it's not
too.
getting stuck on anything in there. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be awful.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they get there and they're like, we need to get to Patusan because they're out like on this island and they have to get back to like where the royalty was. And, like, we need to
Mhm.
figure out a way to get over there. And then like the little boy's like, and he just sees like these trees and it's like, how about we make surfboards out of these trees? And I'm just thinking like that would take days, if not
Yeah,
weeks.
not days. I feel like it would take way longer because aren't surfboards like they have to be like perfect in order to work? Like to perfect. Like I don't know. I feel like it'd be tough.
I just don't think you'd be able to like surf on a wooden surfboard. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, I
You
don't know, but
could, but like it would take a while. You're right.
but
There's a whole army.
it looked like somebody cut off the top of a table and just like, here you go, here's your
Yeah.
surfboard. And but yeah, that's how they get around. That's how they get across, and that's kind of leads up to like the final scene of the movie is like the big fight scene at the end where they're fighting their way over there. And like the one comic book too that I always remember was there's like a bodyguard for Colonel Chi or like the head henchman,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
there's a
Yeah.
scene, and then there's like a scene where every time like he gets he fights somebody, he gets knocked down like this incredibly long flight of stairs, and he falls down it each time.
Yeah, and they show it him stumbling down the stairs, rolling.
Yeah, yeah, and they do that uh twice, and then at the end of the movie, he's like climbing back up the stairs and like, oh, your side lost, you can go again. And he's just like, ugh, and he just like rolls down the stairs again.
Yeah.
And but
Three times, that's comedy, right? Three rule of threes.
yeah, definitely got
Hmm.
to show that 3 times. But
Hmm.
it's pretty silly. Like the fight scene at the end is like pretty unremarkable, but I mean,
Hmm.
it's fun. They're just they get back what they need to, and at the uh, at the end of the movie, they conquered and beat everybody, and then Johnny's now the new king, and now it's just like it's crazy to think he's just like, I abolished monarchy. They're just like, yay.
It's just that easy, huh?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, put my face on a dollar or something, and we'll call it a day. Like,
Yeah, maybe the next king or queen will do that over in the UK.
yeah, just like monarchy dead. Like,
It's
give the
over.
yeah. Uh, so like I said, they've been kind of growing up in this life in California. They love surfing, everything, and they love surfing so much. Nathan is that they do this thing called moto surf, where they they're like moto surf, and they just all they do is they just stand up in their car in a moving vehicle and pretend like they're surfing because
Hmm.
Iggy drives a Jeep, and they're just like doing surfing motions, and they have like paddles and stuff and everything, and they're like
Yeah.
paddling like the street.
Yeah, it's so silly. And there's I don't know, just the visual of that. Like, could you imagine driving down the road and there's people paddling in the
Well,
air?
well, not only that, like Rob Schneider is supposed to be driving, and he's standing up in the car, and like imagine trying to drive your car like full on like standing up.
Yeah, no. Does that car he's driving even have a cruise control?
I don't think so, because he's like trying to like move his feet on the pedals a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but I'm like, he does like a spin move at one point. I'm like, the car doesn't stop or anything. It's just
It's great. One of the greatest scenes in cinema history.
well, apparently it's an epidemic out there in California, because like a cop pulled over another car. He's like, so you guys have been moto surfing, huh? Like,
It's an ad against moto surfing. It was a big issue in America at that time.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Don't do this, kids.
One bit too, which I didn't mention, which I have to mention because I say I haven't seen this movie
Hmm.
in
Oh man.
a long time, but I do watch this one bit like from time to time from this movie. Is is the So there's one scene towards the beginning of the movie where Johnny has to put on this performance, like a traditional Patusan performance for
Mhm.
this guy called the Baba Ram,
Yeah.
and but instead, like he comes in and he sings the song Barbaran, but instead of Barbaran, it's Baba Ram,
Uh-huh.
and then at the end of the movie, they pay off that joke where like they ends up running into that same guy again, and he's just like, "Oh my god, it's you guys!" and
Even though he
and then
looked
they,
offended in the first scene.
but no, he really did love it. He loved their
Yes, yeah.
Barbaran performance. But yeah, then they did a big Barbaran music number at the end of the movie.
Hell yeah. I love a movie that ends with a music number.
So I always would watch that joke because it was
That's
pretty.
funny.
It still gives me a chuckle just every now and then because especially too like when that guy sings Barbara, and it just like goes like super
Uh-huh.
falsetto.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That guy that's like in like a million movies.
Yeah. So overall, doesn't age well. It's not a very good movie, but at the same time, it's still pretty memorable. It still has a pretty special place in my heart because it was a childhood classic. Can't say that I will be seeking it out again anytime soon because the memories are a lot more fun than actually watching the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, where I didn't have like any connection to it. So I would say it's silly. I kind of like that for it. It's not like okay, it's a bad movie, but like, you can have a
Yeah, go
good
ahead.
time with it, but it does get really boring. And I think when it got boring for me is kind of when I tuned out a little bit, especially when they leave America. Um, but to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, would you give it a recommend?
No.
I wouldn't either. I mean, like I said, like I wouldn't recommend it. I probably wouldn't even like this movie had I not grown up with it. But yeah, this was like I said, like I would watch this movie like probably once a year at a certain point. So
Mhm.
um, it was nice to revisit, but I'll just keep those memories to myself from now on.
Yeah, okay. Well, don't worry. I'll share some garbage that I watched as a kid. Let's watch Thomas the Tank Engine movie with Alec Baldwin. That's coming up next.
Did you actually like that one?
Oh yeah, I watched that a lot. Over and
Okay,
over.
all right, sounds good. Well, that'll
There
be
we
a
go.
pick.
Ruining childhood memories month. There we go.
There you go. That'd be a good month, like a good
Uh-huh.
theme.
That would be funny.
But I think that's gonna do it for this episode. So Nathan, what are we talking about next time?
All right, Ryan. We are going to be talking about Rock and Roll High School. I picked this one a while back, and and we skipped over it, but we're going to do it this time. And it's streaming over on Tubi. But Ryan, what are we covering on Thursday?
Well, terrific. I cannot wait to watch that one. And I got another hot pick for you. We're going to be watching The Cincinnati Kid, and
Okay.
that one is streaming over on Tubi for free as well.
Awesome. I love Tubi.
We love Tubi over here. And if you have any thoughts and opinions about our podcast, please send us an email over at drivingdoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on X at DIDFpod. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/drivingdoublefeaturepodcast. But until next time, Quan Su, dude.
Quan Su, dude.